Good morning, everyone. I know for many of you used to hearing Ajay's voice at this point in time, but Ajay's on holiday, so lucky you lot, you're stuck with me. So I'm Justin. I'll be looking after this for the day. For those of you that have not been with us before, welcome. For those regulars, welcome back. The aim of this webinar today is to talk about network automation. We're going to talk about two different offerings. We're actually going to talk about network automation as a subject matter as well. So the purpose is really to show you the options that are out there in general terms and to hone in on two particular Cisco offerings that we have. When it comes to the subject matter, we say necessity or nice to have. Actually, the way networks work is they start off as a nice to have and turn into a necessity as they get larger. So, we're hoping to solve some of those challenges in advance for you. So, I guess a quick word with regards to the platform we're using today. We're using GoToWebinar, and let me just change slides. You've all started in a muted position, so if you have a question, put it in the chat, and we're going to save them all up towards the end when myself and VJ will be able to answer them. So, how are we doing on time? I think we'll just crack on. I think it looks like we've got the right number of attendees. So I think if that's okay with everyone, I think we should just crack on. So, welcome, as I said.
Sorry.
Very special guest on today. We have VJ from Cisco. VJ, do you want to give us a quick intro to yourself?
Yeah, Justin, thank you, and good morning to everybody. I can't see who's actually on the call, but I'm assuming there's lots of wonderful people listening to this call, so I'll keep this brief and short. Yeah, absolutely. Been with Cisco a good few years, pretty much working in the channel space, and really my objective is to support our partner community, obviously Bechtle being one of my major partners, and really help back our customers understand a bit more about Cisco. That's it.
Super.
Keep it simple.
Excellent. And I know all of you know me. I'm Justin Edhouse, CTO for Bechtle UK. Obviously, 23 years with the company now. I'm here to help you with technology challenges. So conversations like these make my day, and I'm here to chat about most aspects of technology. I've been around the IT block a few times. So with this company, obviously. So again, my door is always open for technology discussions. Today, obviously, we're going to be talking about network automation and the challenges that it solves. So with regards to those challenges, I have a lot to talk about here simply because I started out back in the day running around with configs on, storage media, deploying networks. It was good fun, and maybe some of you have had those same experiences. But really what this boils down to is actually when you deploy a network, they usually start small. It seems like a simple, easy thing to do. Even if it's a Cisco product, maybe you've got a copy of the config, you change it, you put in the IPs, you enable the right features, etc., upload it to the switch or router or whatever the product is, and away you go. You think that's straightforward, but then networks are a really organic thing. They grow, they get bigger, they get new features. The business requires more things added to them: VLANs, voice, storage. There's a whole bunch of things that then require change. If you've gone through that deployment process, actually you have to revisit everything you previously deployed and reconfigure it. So yeah, that can be fraught with problems, especially if you're doing it manually. Because networks are present for such a long period of time, it's not unusual to hear of a customer that's got the same network for 7 years. It's just by nature what happens, and when it starts getting old or not fit for purpose, not performant enough, they'll swap it out. But actually, there's a very good chance that the organization might go through more than one network administrator at that time. So one of the challenges there is maintaining standards. Each network administrator might have a different way of doing things, different design philosophies. There's all sorts of things that come about from that change of staff. So yeah, it's really difficult. The bigger the network gets, the more complicated it gets, and the more business changes its requirements, it's harder to maintain. And so I'm sure many of you have heard of those challenges, and I'm sure it rings a bell with a few people about network automation because you might have already embraced it. So what we're going to do is talk next about how we can solve those challenges and what the industry is going to do. So there are quite a few different approaches to this. We'll start off with kind of what Cisco DNA is, and that's more or less a proprietary overlay to optimize your network. If you are a single network, single vendor network, you've got Cisco through and through. What DNA does, and Cisco's not the only one to do these types of proprietary systems, but essentially they know their product really well. They write a tightly integrated proprietary piece of software that allows you to define your network and to manage your network and to modernize your network and to update it. And for that reason, it's very tightly integrated. It works really, really well. It's updated by the manufacturer to meet the modern technology challenges. So as new networking technology comes along, it gets added, and it really does flow nicely. But you know, not everybody is single vendor. Not everybody can afford Cisco. But at the end of the day, those proprietary type products are really, really good because they allow you to get a nice, large, complex, well-managed network and manage it with ease. There's also a slightly different approach, which, you know, built from scratch, designed to meet the challenges. So we'll be talking about Cisco Meraki, and that very much is in that camp. Now, technically, that's still a proprietary offering, but actually what makes it different is its roots. It was designed with automation in mind. It was built from the ground up to be fully integrated at the time of purchase to solve what I would regard as common network challenges that are actually felt by most organizations. We all have some of those challenges, some more than others, depending on the shape and size of the network and the shape and size of the company running the network. So you'll hear a lot about Meraki later on from BJ. Then, of course, there's the OpenStack, open source approach. We won't really be covering too much of that today. I am happy to talk about them at a later date, but this is really where you start getting into those agile networks. You know, people that have a DevOps mentality at the core of their business really want to not just take control of their network using OpenStack and API calls and things like that, but actually their infrastructure as a whole. That could be servers, virtualization, storage. So it really is that ethos for an agile-minded company that's very heavy on software developers normally. It does take that extra layer of skill. It's not for everyone, but you can really drive some really interesting business outcomes. And of course, it's multi-vendor as well. So you get an OpenStack compatible piece of networking equipment, and you can enable those features. Last but not least, off-the-shelf tools. These are, you know, I'm sure you'll recognize some of the brands which I'll bring up now. These are just products you can buy from us or, you know, many places, your SolarWinds, etc. And what they do is they generally allow you to enable some of the industry standard network management features that are available from most network switches. They don't solve all ails by any means, but they are across many vendors, and they certainly aiming to solve some of the common ones that a lot of people suffer with. And they're really designed for those networks, I would say small to mid-size, multi-vendor, quite homegrown, evolved over time. Perhaps they don't have the ability to green grass it and go to a networking standard, or maybe they're on their way there but haven't made it yet. So yeah, those generally available tools can be really useful for bridging a gap or just taking care of the big pain points. But today, we're going to talk about the Cisco solutions. So we're going to talk about Cisco Meraki, and that's what I would regard as a mid-market product. Again, it fits that, designed with automation in mind, and it's a really, really easy, simple product that covers a swathe of infrastructure, and VJ will tell you about that. And then afterwards, I'm going to be talking about DNA. So DNA is that overlay to an existing Cisco network. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to VJ, and he can take you through the Meraki suite. Over to you, VJ.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate that. Okay, fantastic. Have I got control? I'm assuming I have. Okay, so just adding to what Justin has said, I'm going to kind of dive straight into sort of kind of why Meraki as a potential option that you could choose to actually reduce that, what I would call moves, adds, and changes in the network infrastructure, right? So it's really about helping to reduce that cost. Up to 75% of most IT budgets actually disappears into keeping the lights on, right? So we recognize that from an early age, and the part of the reason why we acquired Meraki was because of that one sole reason, is that they produced a product from the ground up with reducing the complexity of what I call moves, adds, and changes in a network. So the products are very similar to the Cisco portfolio, but the main reason is that single pane of glass where you can log in and actually start to manage and support and diagnose and sort of secure a network from a single pane of glass. So what does that actually look like in the real world, which I'm going to take you through now. So okay, so this is just what I would call a marketing slide. Gives you a nice fluffy view of exactly what this concept is going to look like. Cloud managed networking is exactly the title. That's what we refer it to in the world of Cisco. A lot of our customers know it as that particular functionality as well. So it is driven by logging into a URL. It logs into our secure, obviously the Meraki software itself. And that's the main driver for this sort of simplicity, or to create this automation process to help our customers start to manage an infrastructure as they start to scale from a single pane of glass, right? So a very sort of simple overview here. We acquired Meraki, I think, probably about 7 years ago. They were turning over just over $100 million. Currently, they've just exited around about $2.4 billion. And we're seeing almost double-digit growth every year in customers moving into this particular world, because it's that simplicity and helping our customers to create a world of management in a single pane of glass, and it's reducing the amount of that time that they spend doing the moves, adds, and changes in their infrastructure. So let's kind of go into the actual the product itself, and what is the look and feel, and how does it compare to some of our competitors as well. There's some to give you a bit of a choice as to they want to consider Meraki as an option. Okay, so it's based on a dashboard. Some of you may have already have used Meraki before. If you have, apologies for teaching suck eggs. Those that haven't, this is exactly what the Meraki dashboard will look like. It is a single pane of glass. Once you log into your portal, obviously securely, you will then be able to see a variety of information, and I'm talking right down to getting down to what the applications are running on a single iPad anywhere on the network, right? So you can go from that all the way up to the access point, into the switch, and into the security products as well, all from a single pane of glass. As you can see on that example there on the left-hand side, any Meraki products that are actually in your network will actually appear into that particular panel, and then you can then start to drill down, right down into the bare roots of each product and find exactly what's going on from a diagnostics perspective, but more importantly also from a deployment perspective. If it's a multi-site environment as well, you don't necessarily have to have a physical engineer on site to get these things up and running as well. I'm not a technical guy myself, but I can plug in one of those access points and get it configured in 10 minutes. So it is very, very intuitive. It's GUI driven, as you can probably clearly see. You don't necessarily have to be a CCNA qualified engineer to deploy Meraki, and that's probably one of the attractions as to why Meraki has become certainly a good option for a lot of our customers. It's just ease of use and ease of deployment. Okay, so let's kind of go into the product portfolio. If I can move this forward. So here's the product portfolio. It's not a massive portfolio compared to the mothership from Cisco. Obviously, the Cisco portfolio is quite big, but it's got most of the stuff in there. So switches, access points, security products. It's typically, again, what the Cisco sort of pieces as well. The only odd differential here is we've got physical security as an option as well. So the cameras, we introduced them probably coming up to now year 3. And they've really, really started to take off. It was an area that Cisco played before in the past, but sadly failed miserably. The cameras didn't really, really take off. But Meraki came out with a proposition about 2 years ago, and we've seen some exponential growth in that particular physical security. These cameras are now being used in a variety of areas, including social distancing capabilities as well. So we've partnered up with a couple of third-party application manufacturers, whereby the cameras are now able to provide social distancing capabilities and alerts to organizations where they can say, well, hold on, this queue is getting bigger than what it should do, alert the relevant sort of administrators, say that needs to be addressed. So there's some really, really clever stuff being developed on the cameras as well. Won't dwell too much on it, but that's the portfolio. So I'm going to do a little bit of a breakdown on that portfolio and exactly how that compares to some of our competitors and why kind of Meraki, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's kind of go straight into it. Those that want to find out a bit more about the information, there is a ton of information that's available out there. There's a lot of content to refer to after this webinar, should there be more of an interest. So please, by all means, reach out and log on to that URL. If not, obviously contact Justin and myself. We're happy to take you through that particular process indeed. Okay, I'm hoping it's going to be the product slide I can build out next. Right, no, the product slide's missing. We have a slide missing, Justin. It should have been the product slide here.
We didn't skip it, did we?
I think you have. This is the actual the one that builds out with
see if we've lost a slide here.
It would have been slide 5 in my original deck. It's got like the comparisons to our products compared to our competitors, and it builds out to the dashboard.
Okay.
It was the one
that's left on your keypad, and you go back, and then again.
Yeah.
Okay, it seems to be.
Yeah, it was after this particular slide.
Sure. Okay, I mean, in terms of, I guess we can articulate it in terms of some of the advantages, of course. So yeah, feel free to go for that if you want
to. Okay, I can articulate it. So basically, what we've got here is, I mean, let's concentrate on this particular slide in that case, because it's basically building our product portfolio. So the key point here, all these products actually have a single pane of glass from an operational perspective, from a deployment perspective, from a security perspective, and the list goes on, right? So the dashboard on the left-hand side is what you will see. So you will see a Google Map type sort of interface as you log into your network, and as you start to drill down to each one of those icons, you'll get further and further into the network, and eventually, in fact, we could go back to this particular slide here. What you'll end up getting access to is a very, very rich area of information on each device, the operational functionality of that device, right down to, if you're looking at the switch, you can go right down to each port level. You can do packet capture, you can start to diagnose the port, you can see what's actually connected to it. And then from there, you can actually then draw down into the device that's actually connected to that port as well, right? So, if you've got obviously a PC, you can actually get to see the applications that are running on PC, or if it's a tablet that's connected to an access point, again, you can get to the access point very, very quickly. So literally from 4 clicks from a global view to a specific access point view, it's about 5 clicks on the actual dashboard to get from one position to another. And then from there, you can then start to diagnose exactly what's going on. If you've got employees that are sort of, challenged with certain, maybe for example, Wi-Fi access, or certain applications are running slowly, you can actually get down to that sort of level and start to find exactly where the challenge is as well. A great example is if you want to do some particularly, for example, packet shaping. So, for example, Dropbox is something you want to give access to people, but you want to limit the amount of upload and downloads there is. It literally is a case of sliding a slider and reducing the amount of traffic that can be traversed across Dropbox or not. If you go back to the traditional sort of Cisco world, you'd actually literally have to go in command line interface, do the changes, apply it to every single access point, and away you go. And that's typically a couple of hours worth of work. In Meraki, it's probably about 3 minutes to do that functionality. Again, you can start to prioritize traffic as well. So classically, voice over, over sort of data, or if there's, classically you want voice and video to be a priority, especially in the current climate that we've got. Then we can start doing that kind of capability, again, at a very, very simple GUI approach rather than a command line interface approach. That's the key thing. SD-WAN is already built into this particular dashboard as well, so you can now start to optimize your WAN connectivity if you're going down that route. And I know SD-WAN is a big subject. A lot of people are talking about how do we start to reduce the cost of our internet connection, but maintain a level of efficiency when our traffic's traversing across that as well. So that's actually already built in as well. So there's a rich content amount of information that's available when you start going into the Meraki one. Now, obviously, this dashboard will only talk to Meraki products because that's how they're built. We know that there are multiple vendors in a lot of our customers' infrastructure, so unfortunately, at the moment, it will only talk to the Meraki devices on the network as well. It will see a device as an IP device, but that's pretty much as far as it will go, right? So as you start to build out, a lot of our customers are moving into that sort of Meraki world because the choice is already there. So there's a ton of information available. All our products in that case run this one single graphical user interface. The way it's purchased, every device that comes out has got a 3-year license with it. So you will automatically default as a 3-year license, and that license gives you access to the dashboard. So if you don't renew that license for that particular device, you potentially could lose access, the visibility access to that particular device. So to ensure that you are maintaining your license as well. There are code summing facilities as well as you add more and more devices on your network as well. I'm just trying to think. I was going to try and ask a question, but clearly the panel's on mute, so I can't ask the question. But I'm hoping.
I think a really important part to actually mention as well is if you were in a different situation and you were a multi-vendor organization, you would have many consoles to work from. And when you're talking about things like quality of service and end-to-end assurances of traffic, if you are dealing with for example, a different Wi-Fi provider to your switching provider, to a router provider, actually, what Vijay was talking about there with that single panel becomes so powerful by comparison, because just simply in terms of knowledge, cost of maintaining those infrastructure, cost of time for your network administrators to use all the different GUIs or command lines to actually affect change. If that just those one little change that's a couple of minutes in Meraki terms becomes potentially days, especially if it doesn't go smoothly across a multi-vendor environment. So there are some great competitors out there, but if you have too many of those technologies, you lose some of the real key benefits that Meraki brings. So I think that's an important takeaway from that slide that's missing.
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on, Justin, and well said. Exactly that point. So, and the overarching objective of this webinar today was how do we help our customers reduce that 75% time spent on keeping the infrastructure going and up and running, and most importantly, secure. The other bit I wanted to kind of add as well, some of the security products from the Cisco side are now starting to get integrated into the Meraki dashboard as well. So a classic example will be the web access or web policing capabilities, which is Umbrella. That's now available as part of the Meraki dashboard as well. So now what we're doing is bringing some of the core components in our Cisco world into the Meraki world as well. So you're now getting the best of both worlds, so to speak, to a degree. And as time goes on, more and more of the products, especially on the security side, you'll start to see getting integrated into this dashboard as well. So we're starting to attract an awful lot more customers. I don't know why the slides are moving, but they are. But there you go, never mind. If you can just keep that slide there. So look, I'm conscious of time. I want to kind of open it up to Q&A towards the back end. I'm going to pass back over to Justin, and then maybe we can do some Q&A at the end. But thank you for all your time. Justin, over to you.
Cool. Thank you. Excellent. So yeah, I mean, I really do like the Meraki stack. It's got a lot to offer. And like I said, it fits most people's challenges in the mid-market space, especially, where we do have some pretty consistent challenges around time management, automation, security, updates, you name it. I think that the Meraki offering, being cloud-based, this is I guess a little comparison I like to draw. I think of Meraki a bit like Apple iPhone, is that it simplifies down, it understands its users well, it understands the challenges well, and it presents it very simply. So I very much think that Meraki come with the same ethos. So moving on back to the Cisco DNA focus, again, this is definitely coming at the problem at a different level, from a different perspective, and with a very different ethos. And I think I wanted to take you through what the DNA architecture is all about. Before I do this, I will say I am massively summarizing everything here. It's a bit like trying to explain the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings in a couple of slides. It just isn't possible. DNA does so many things, but I'm going to talk you through some of the headline things. Of course, automating manual processes, that's what we're talking about here. It's going to save you time. It's going to reduce human errors. It's about creating repeatable and consistent configurations time after time, regardless of who's in charge of the network, and it's all done through a single sort of pane of glass. That box that says codified business intent, I know some of you will be looking at that and going, oh dear, marketing slide. Yes, it is kind of, but what I'm trying to articulate there is that if your business knows what it wants from the network, you can use DNA to build it. And it will operate it and keep it to a standard well. So it's not let's build a network and make the business run on top of it. No, it's define what our business needs to achieve with its network, with its data and its network and its comms and its storage, and then build the network around that. That way, you have exactly the right features, you have control of the right features, and it all makes sense and hangs together nicely and will grow and scale. Obviously, simplifying new device deployment. I talked about that earlier on. If you've got a very manually defined network and you're 7 years on trying to add a network device in and you've done it all manually, it is an absolute pain. So there's actually a really nice video which I wanted to show you today. I will get the link sent out to everybody, but I think it really defines just how easy it is with DNA to deploy a new device. Again, monitoring, managing, if you are low on network staff, you're in a multi-site deployment, that whole overview and being able to see it very quickly where there's a problem, where latency is a problem or something's failed or whatever it is with regards to the operating of that network that doesn't seem to be operating right. DNA can highlight it, bring it to the fore, and it can be addressed easily, hopefully with the console. So yeah, it really is trying to bring, I guess, all the lovely things that Meraki does at an enterprise grade to a single pane of glass. And of course, where it gets a little bit more sophisticated is the automation policies. So this is where you start getting a lot more custom. You start being able to do a whole lot more across the stack of Cisco equipment, aligning it with what your business is trying to achieve with the network and making sure that it functions in line with that expectation. So yeah, it really is an amazing thing that I could spend hours and hours boring you to tears with, but I'm not going to. All I can say is in terms of what it is supporting, then obviously there is a certified list of DNA ready infrastructure products. It does fit broadly the key challenges we all face, switching, including the 9000 series, the routing, the wireless, that picture that Vijay was showing with the console with the map and the dots on there, very similar to some of the DNA functionality in terms of you can define buildings, locations, offices, floors, integrate floor maps, and deploy equipment with a drag and drop interface, which is really quite incredible considering you still have at the back end of that lovely config option, command line based with Cisco. So it gives you the best of both worlds. So to summarize really what we're talking about here, the importance of network automation, it's really just about exactly what it says there on the screen. It's about improving standards, improving security. Some people challenge me on that whole, well, how does it improve security? How does automation improve security? Well, it's about if you've got consistent configurations that are clearly defined and you're updating your firmware via a single pane of glass, then you're improving security. Vulnerabilities appear all the time in the world of networking. Cisco is very quick to patch them, but that doesn't mean it's deployed to your network. So if you've got DNA, you can address the whole network and deploy patches really quickly. If there's a config change required to mitigate a risk, you can push that out. So it really does help immensely with security. With regards to what we're talking about here, I think when you start talking about Meraki versus Cisco DNA, I actually think, in terms of if you've got a Cisco network, again, you're going to pick the automation solution that fits. So you could pick OpenStack, you could pick an off-the-shelf product, you could pick Cisco DNA. All of those things will in one way or another help you in your mission. Or better still, if you're lucky enough to have that green grass approach, or you need to do a complete refresh, then take a step back, or look at the automation tools that are available to you, look at the problems that they solve, the cost of them, and of course, Bechtle can help you with those challenges. You can speak to our networking team or myself. We can show you the vast array of products until we find the one that suits you best. Let's hope it's Meraki or Cisco DNA, but there are lots of others out there that we offer as well that can help you solve those challenges. So you'll have the lucky position of being able to pick the network to fit the challenge, and of course the skill sets. We all know how expensive network administrators can sometimes be. You want to have enough of them, but not too many of them. And the simpler the solution for you as a business, the more likely that's going to fit you. So yeah, just take your time to engage with us. That's the most important takeaway for me. We're talking about 2 specific technologies today, but that's not the be all and end all. So we're happy to take the time and articulate it much in the way we have today. We can also do demos. If you want to see some Meraki product, we can arrange that. There is lots that we can offer you as a business. So moving on. See if the slide will change. There we go. Questions. In terms of questions, I've already had some sent through to me, so let's take a look and see what we got. Oh, okay. So first one, why would I choose Cisco Meraki over Cisco DNA? Well, I think yeah, it's a tough one because actually, aren't the lines becoming blurred these days? Do you want to take that one, VJ, or shall I?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a question that does come up on a regular basis to a lot of people I talk to as well. What's the primary differentiator? I think the Meraki piece is it's going to go down to the skill set that each of our customers have from a technical perspective, right? What level of IT skill set they've got, what level of accreditation they've got, and how familiar they are or not, as the case may be, with the traditional Cisco command line interface, because the back end of DNA still does have that CLI sort of capability. DNA is a great improvement in trying to create what we call a more easier methodology to manage the vast range of products that we've got on the Cisco side. So I think that the question needs to be asked is what level of technical skill sets you have as customers, and depending on that skill set, and also the second area is obviously how big is the network and how complex is the network. If it's multiple sites, got multiple vendors in there, then really but you've got a very very lean IT team, then certainly Meraki is a good way of doing it. If you've got a fairly credible team from a technical perspective, and you've got a reasonably good amount of resource, then certainly from a management perspective, Cisco is the one to choose as well, right? From a functionality perspective, they pretty much do the same or similar, but it is really down to each individual customer's preferences and skill sets they've actually got within their infrastructure to support the technical aspect of both those solutions. Really, that's pretty much where you decide which way to go. Rephrase that. That's a starting point. That's not the old sole decision. That's the way you go, Meraki or Cisco, but it's certainly the one that comes up on a regular basis. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm hoping I've answered that one.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, VJ.
Cool.
So we have some more. I have multiple brands of network devices in my network. What can I do to automate? Okay, well, I'll take that one. I think that comes back to it can be challenging. Managing multi-vendor environments, it's definitely has its challenges. But like I said, there are, depending on the level of switch and the features it's got, there are some management functions that are built into managed switches, which you can engage that kind of industry standard management tools like SolarWinds. I keep mentioning them because they're obviously quite well known, but there are other tools out there as well. and simple things like even LAN sweeper. If you're a small to mid-sized organization, they even offer some Spiceworks. There's another one that can bring a certain level of automation, and those products tend to cover more than just a bit of the network management. Where they tend to suffer, though, is very much in affecting change. So I find most network management tools are very good at reporting, but when you actually start talking about modernizing the network and updating the network and changing configurations, that's when you have to refer back to the switch configuration tools, whether that be command line or GUI. So, sorry, Vijay?
Sorry, Justin. I was going to say, I was going to chuck in a typical sales request there. So if you have got multiple vendors in your infrastructure, and they may be, if they're at a potential stage where they are potentially starting to creak at the edges, Cisco do actually provide a very good trading program for your equipment as well. So typically putting a sales angle to it, you don't want to move across into the world of Cisco, we will actually give you some credit back for the existing infrastructure you've actually got installed in your networks as well. Sorry, just a salesy question.
So there you go. There's the answer. Scrap it all and buy Cisco. Thanks.
Well, just throw it in there. If you're investing in Cisco, we will give you something back for the current infrastructure that you've actually got installed in your premises as well. So it's not just like, well, rip and replace and get no recognition. We want customers to move to us, and we need to give you an incentive to do that, and that's one of the incentives we've got out there. So just keep that in the back of your heads.
Yeah. Thanks, Vijay. That's perfect. Okay, so Vijay mentioned earlier on that there are some Cisco products appearing in DNA. Well, the next question is the reverse of that, is do Meraki products work with DNA? I'm going to say, from my experience, I haven't seen any on the DNA approved list, but Vijay, have you anything to add there?
You're right. Yeah, no, absolutely spot on, Justin. They're not yet. I say that with the caveat. They're not yet integrated into the DNA sort of architecture, because the language is slightly different still, unfortunately. But that's not to say that they won't be working to do that. But because the Meraki dashboard is so, should we call it, unique in its own way, and it's very, very popular with a lot of our customers. You can see, over 2.5 million networks out there and growing. And these aren't just, sort of that mid-sized customers. We've got quite a few enterprise customers now moving into this space purely to reduce that moves as and changes time. Meraki is now becoming a very, very popular product. So at this moment in time, the dashboard stays as it is. There is no direct link to the DNA center. But like I said, I say that with a caveat. There could be potentially down the line.
We don't have that crystal ball yet, do we? But it would
seem
like a sensible way to go, yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like last question is, have we had any dealings with Juniper and automation? Well, so with Juniper, their automation products are slightly scattered at the moment. Yes, we've had some dealings with them. North Star, for example. There's a couple of products in the North Star range that can help you with network planning, simulation, traffic engineering, and there's a few others that help you automate. I wouldn't say they're quite as advanced in terms of the simplification of the environment. You get a lovely single pane of glass with DNA and with Meraki. With the Juniper offerings, it's a little bit more complex than that. But certainly, it's Juniper. Shut your ears, Vijay. Juniper's great kit in that respect. It's very manageable. I just think in terms of the automation timeline, that they're slightly behind the curve. But you can certainly engage with Neve and Scott Coombs, and they can certainly talk to you about automation tools, engineering. We can help you get them set up and configured, etc. So yeah, by all means, get engaged. That'd be great. So I think, let me just see if there's any more questions.
I was just going to kind of summarize on that one, if I may.
Sure.
Justin. Just so that those that are listening out there, obviously, if you do want to, venture a little bit further down the Meraki route, we do a kind of a try and buy type capabilities as well. We do actually get onto webinar and actually get yourself a free, actually fully live device with a 3-year license on it for you to try out with your infrastructure as well, see what that dashboard looks like. So just encourage, if there is an appetite to look further into the actual product set and what does that look like in terms of reality. We do provide a free of charge device, use an access point that goes out as long as you attend one of our webinars, which certainly Justin and Neve can help you out with in terms of how to get registered.
Perfect. So just to wrap things up then, obviously we've got some more webinars coming up. The one that I'm sure everyone will love to get involved with is Winning with AI. Obviously that is all the rage at the moment, so we have some really interesting stuff to go through, and a personal favorite of mine on the 10th of September is a bit on robotic process automation, and this is all around automating those menial tasks with technology. So again, it's management tool. I think is very much the flavor of the month right now. So we'll be running a little bit of a how-to, a starting point on RPA and how to get you going. So they're coming up. From my side for this event, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for attending. We are going to pop up a little survey at the end of this. Please don't close it. Please take the time to give your feedback. It's really important to us that we actually understand what we're delivering is working for you guys. We are flexible enough that we can change the content if you'd like it to be more technical or less technical, but if we don't know, we can't do anything with it. So please take the time to actually fill out that survey. For those that maybe want their colleagues to take a look at these webinars, you can go to our website and you can actually see them all there on demand, or if you're a YouTube junkie like me, then feel free to get on YouTube and have a look at our page there. Of course, you've got the advantage that you can subscribe and like, etc. So if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when our next videos are going to come out, and of course you can watch them on demand. So even if you miss the live event, you can catch up with all of them. There's some really interesting subjects in there as well, so please take the time. Other than that, I think it's time for me to sign off, and Vijay as well. Thanks ever so much for attending.
Yeah, likewise, great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you wonderful people. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.